It's a rainy weeknight in California. March 24th, 1999. A Loomis tractor trailer pulls into the company yard in San Francisco a little after 9:30 p.m., coming in off Interstate 80 from Sacramento. The trip is routine. The guards climb out, stretch, and walk to the back to unload. Guard Frank Betancourt unlocks the rear doors. He swings them open, expecting stacks of coin and cash. Instead, he stops. The floor is wet, not damp, but wet, glittering with rainwater under the trailer lights. Water like this should not be inside a sealed truck. Betancourt looks up. In the roof of the trailer is a hole, not a neat circle, not a clean cut, a jagged opening with the metal edges bent downward, as if something or someone has come through from the outside. Later, he'll tell a reporter the hole had a very jagged shape with the edges pointed down. It had a trapdoor type look to it. At first, the crew tried to make it make sense. Maybe lightning hit the truck. Maybe some kind of debris punched through. Then they start counting the money that's supposed to be there, and the scale of what's happened snaps into focus. Roughly $2.3 million in cash, about 260 to 270 pounds of 20s, 50s, and 100s is gone. The doors are still locked. The alarm on the back is still armed, and nobody in the cab heard a thing. The FBI will later call it one of the most extraordinary armored truck robberies they've seen. It has the feel of a Western train job, but updated. No horses, no dynamite, no gang with bandanas, just a thief or thieves who climbed onto a moving semi, cut through the roof in the rain, stole millions, and vanished without ever opening the doors. To understand how this was even possible, you need the route. On that night, a Loomis Fargo semi-trailer leaves the Sacramento depot around 7:30 p.m., headed for the company facility in San Francisco. It's raining. Inside the cab are three men, 58-year-old driver Howard Brown and guards Frank Betancourt and Ken Montgomery. The tractor unit is armored. The trailer behind them is not. It's a standard aluminum box. Historically, Loomis used unarmored trailers for coin runs, heavy, low-value loads where full armor wasn't considered worth the cost. But by the late 1990s, they'd started adding paper money to those same trailers as a cost-saving measure. On this run, that decision meant millions of dollars in banknotes were traveling in what was effectively a big aluminum box with a lock and an alarm on the back doors. The journey itself is simple. Apart from stop signs and traffic lights in Sacramento, there's only one planned stop, a way station near Cordelia, outside Fairfield, about an hour down the road. After that, the truck runs straight through to San Francisco. Arriving a little before 9:40 p.m. for the men in the cab, nothing stands out. No jolts, no strange noises. Rain on the windshield, wipers going, highway traffic. They don't know that above them, on the roof of the trailer, someone else may be riding the same road in the dark. Back at the depot, after the shock of the hole and the water, the first guesses are almost hopeful. Maybe it was lightning, maybe some freak accident. Anything that doesn't involve someone deliberately tearing into the company's security. But once the missing cash is confirmed, the reality is hard to escape. This wasn't nature, this was theft. The FBI is called because this is a major interstate theft involving an armored carrier. It becomes a federal case. Investigators keep it quiet at first, delaying public announcement for weeks while they look hard at the most statistically common explanation in armored car cases, an inside job. Driver Howard Brown and the guards are interviewed, scrutinized, and eventually cleared. Forensic work on the hole shows it was cut from the outside, not from within. This wasn't a hidden stowaway emerging from inside the trailer and the back doors, still locked, with the alarm intact when the truck arrived. Whoever did this came in from above and left the same way. On paper, the job is brutally simple. Get on the roof, cut a hole, drop inside, bag the cash, get the bags out, get yourself out, don't get seen, don't get heard. In practice, it borders on insane, wet metal, highway wind, unstable footing, and the constant risk that the crew in the cab might hear one wrong noise and hit the brakes. When investigators sweep the inside of the trailer, they find almost nothing useful. No obvious tool marks they can match to a specific saw. No discarded clothing. No fingerprints they can tie to a suspect. Just one thing stands out. Snagged under a load of coins, there's an old, worn duffel bag. It's military surplus from the Netherlands, Dutch marked with the initials MVO, or MOVE in some reports, indicating the Netherlands Ministry of Defense from the 1950s or 60s. There's even an old Netherlands rail baggage tag attached. Was this the bag used to carry the money? Was it deliberately chosen as a misdirection, pointing away from local suspects? Military surplus like this travels all over the world. What the bag proves is that someone came prepared with their own container. They weren't improvising with whatever they found in the trailer. Everything else about it is frustratingly interpretation. The practical problem in this case is obvious. You can't carry 260+ pounds of banknotes while jumping off a moving truck. It's too heavy, too obvious, and too dangerous. So how did the money leave the truck without anyone seeing bags in the thief's hands? A small breakthrough comes from the public. Two motorists driving behind the Loomis truck that night come forward as the semi pulls into the way station at Cordelia. They see a man in dark clothing jump off the back or top of the trailer and run into the fields in the direction of Solano Community College. He doesn't appear to be carrying anything. The detail seems small, but it fits a larger picture. If the robber knew the truck almost always stopped at that way station 99% of the time, as one guard later put it, then that stop becomes the cleanest exit point. You don't have to jump at full highway speed. You wait for the way station, feel the brakes, and then drop off while the rig is moving slowly. But that still leaves the money itself. The FBI's working theory goes like this. The thief or thieves got onto the trailer roof near the start of the run, likely as the truck was leaving the Sacramento depot or at a traffic light in the city. During the drive between Sacramento and Cordelia, they cut through the thin aluminum roof and dropped into the trailer. Once inside, they loaded the cash into bags and tossed those bags out along a pre-planned stretch of roadside where accomplices following in another vehicle could scoop them up. Then, when the truck reached the way station, the rooftop thief simply rode it in and jumped off. It's not confirmed. There's no dash cam, no surveillance footage tying a specific car to the truck. But given the weight of the cash and the lack of bags at the end, it's one of the only scenarios that fits all the known facts without giving the thief superhuman strength. As the case drags on with no arrests, driver Howard Brown eventually decides to talk publicly. In a later interview, he describes something Loomis had quietly stopped doing a few months before the robbery, running a chase vehicle behind the trailer between Sacramento and San Francisco. A second truck or car, eyes on the back of the rig. At the time, management had decided to pull the chase vehicles. Brown says he'd asked for that extra security to stay. It didn't. He also points out something that now sounds painfully obvious. Nobody was tasked with checking the roof. Procedures focused on locks, alarms, and what you could see from the ground. A thief riding the top of the trailer simply wasn't part of the mental model. In hindsight, that blind spot is the thief's best ally. Inside Loomis, the robbery triggers changes. The company had already been in the process of phasing out unarmored trailers for cash. After this, that process accelerates. A senior executive later calls that trailer one of the very few we had left, and suggests it may have been the last time they moved paper money that way. With no arrests, the Loomis truck heist slides into a familiar category. Crimes where we can describe the method better than the person. Investigators believe more than one thief was involved. They believe there was planning, possibly detailed surveillance of the route and the depot. They believe someone had enough nerve to ride the roof of a loaded semi in the rain. They do not know who that person was. One theory is the classic one, an outside crew with good reconnaissance. You watch the depot, you learn departure times. You note that there's no chase car anymore. You notice the regular way station stop at Cordelia. You bring a surplus bag, a saw, a second vehicle, and you run the plan until it works. In that version, the Dutch duffel bag is just a cheap, tough sack someone bought from a surplus store years before. Another theory points inward, not by naming specific individuals, but by asking, who knew the chase vehicles had been pulled? Who knew this particular trailer would be carrying that much paper money instead of just coins? Information like that isn't usually obvious from outside. But here's the hard fact. Despite that line of questioning, the driver and guards were cleared, and no Loomis employee has ever been charged in connection with the heist. A third line of speculation leans on the bag itself. Maybe the thief had ties to the Netherlands. Maybe they'd served in the Dutch military decades earlier. But again, military surplus is one of the most traded, reused categories of gear on Earth. A bag like that can change hands dozens of times without leaving a name. Treating it as a direct pointer is tempting and risky. What we do know is this. On a rainy March night in 1999, a Loomis money trailer left Sacramento with roughly $2.3 million in cash on board. Sometime between there and San Francisco, probably near Cordelia, someone cut into the roof from the outside, got inside without triggering the door alarm, removed hundreds of pounds of money, and left a hole, some rainwater, and a single foreign duffel bag behind. The driver and guards noticed nothing until they opened the doors at the end of the run. No suspect has ever been publicly identified. No money has been recovered. There's a quote from guard Frank Betancourt that captures the mood of this case. Talking to the press later, he said of the thief, "He was a Houdini in my mind. This is the most daring robbery I can imagine. He did this without us even having a clue. Everything that he needed to go right did go right." It's easy, sitting at home, to say you'd have heard the saw. You'd have felt the vibration. You'd have spotted a shadow in the mirrors. Maybe. Or maybe, like these three men, you'd have been focused on the road ahead, assuming that a locked door and an alarm were enough. That's the uncomfortable part. The Loomis truck robbery sits in a strange place between movie and reality. On screen, a stunt like this would be the opening scene before the car chases and the double crosses. In real life, there's no sequel. Just a hole in a roof, a cold case file, and a question that never really got an answer. Who planned it? Who rode that roof? And where, all these years later, that money finally ended up?